Thanks to Evan and Litseen for having me here. My name is Jenny Chi, and I'm going to be reading a few poems from my debut poetry collection, Focal Point, which was the 2020 winner of the Steel Toe Books Poetry Award. And I wrote most of this book when I was getting my PhD in cancer biology here in San Francisco at UCSF. And this was after the death of my mother to cancer, and I have often called this book a second dissertation. I'm going to start by reading the very first poem, and the title of this poem is The Definition of a Focal Point in Optics. This is a point at which parallel waves converge and from which diverge. Researcher. Prevention won't save my life, tweets a patient with metastatic cancer. I'm reminded of my mother. Why don't you want to study cancer? When I expressed interest in HIV. In the hospital, call from a professor, my mother clapping once, then silence. The roommate 30 years her senior, who called my voice lovely, who called my mother lucky, whom I resented because she outlived my mother. Nights at a microscope in a dark room where the lights turn off after 10, sitting too still, turning a knob just so to focus on the right field of cells. The 800 mice I've sacrificed this year, injecting cancer, harsh medicine into their soft, warm bodies, hating them for biting me, but understanding, stroking their white fur in apology, covering cages with paper so they can't watch their sisters die. But I can, and I see my mother in those graying eyes I refuse to donate because how would she see? And I think how cruelly futile all this erratically focused empathy, how brutal to learn why I couldn't save what I couldn't save. Next, I'm going to read a couple of very short poems that I wrote in the early years of grad school when learning how to grow cells in a dish and thinking about how cell behavior was similar to human behavior. Biology Lesson 1. Cells need touch. Isolated cells wither, float away in a blood-red sea. Biology Lesson 2. Too much touch stifles. Even the toughest cells die wanting room to breathe. And I'm going to end with a poem that is towards the very end of this book. And I think of this poem as my love letter to San Francisco. When this is all over, here is what I will miss. Running through the park, even when I hated it, cursed my legs for their sourness. The heron walking into the pond, small white reflection emerging from the verdure, so lush it brushes the sky teal. Bees floating from poppy to lupine to cobweb thistle, tender hum and churn like waves lapping the shore, like language, like love, so certain, how could it be any other way? Even the fog, that cool gray mist stalking the shoreline, feeding redwoods pale honey from the mercurial god, feasting on city lights in waning hours, and at the end, squinting into the bright ocean, once described by the Greeks as wine, because they didn't have words for the color blue, or there wasn't yet blue, or maybe they were drunk off its immensity. Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Jenny Chi.